The retaking of Manila was a great Allied advance towards the complete destruction of Japanese imperialism. But let us not forget the cost of that advance. The savage, premeditated destruction of the city of Manila was direct orders from Tokyo. We will inevitably bring to trial those responsible for these crimes. The leaders of a nation devoid of all human decency. This film will be part of the evidence that will convict these criminals. I have told the story of the rape of Manila on the floor of Congress of the United States. Manila is the price of Filipino loyalty to America. I want you to see this picture from the eyes of the camera of an eyewitness, Captain David Griffin of the U.S. Marine Corps.
The 37th Division, U.S. Army, had urgent business in Manila. I was returning with them to my pre-war home after 3 years' absence. There it was, the familiar Bonifacio Monument marking the entrance to the city. And just beyond Rizal Avenue, where the first crowd had gathered behind our lines to welcome us. They assured us that the liberation of the entire city was near. The Japanese were retreating from the northern part of the city, and the 4,000 American prisoners in Santa Tomas had been freed only the day before. They had been kept alive for 3 years by courageous Filipino friends who had smuggled food and medicine over the walls. General Romulo and all of us will never forget the welcome they gave us. They were reading their first mail from home. Waiting in line for their first American food. There were Neil Crawford and Dr. Bewley. I hardly recognized them. Freedom brought reflection, and as evening fell, some of us went up into the tower of Santa Tomas to look out over the city we loved, still intact. We were grateful that the enemy was about to evacuate Manila. They were putting up only a token resistance. The city was going to be spared, so we thought. As we stood there, vivid memories came back to us. Memories of Manila Bay filled with ships from all over the world. Of the beauty of the city with its colorful parks, broad avenues and modern buildings. The National Assembly Building, the Manila Hotel, and the University of the Philippines with its 8,000 students. Manila was a city of happy people, free people who worshiped as they pleased, whose children went to free schools, carefree people who danced and loved life and gaiety, who loved fashion shows and pageants and parades and Coca-Cola. I remembered Christmas shopping at Hickok's department store, the finest in the Orient. I remembered Francisco Delgado's wedding in the cathedral and how lovely his bride was. I recalled the Christmas Eve I spent with my friends, the Reyes family. It was bedtime, and I remember so well how the great explosions cut short our memories. The Japs were destroying the city. We knew that Yamashita had requested instructions from Tokyo. This was Tokyo's answer. Here was Japan's revenge for Filipino loyalty to America. We should have remembered that Japanese war history is written in the ashes of gutted buildings. The dawn came after a night of terror. The entire business district was gone. The fires still raged in other sections of the city. Combat had begun. As if wanton destruction were not criminal enough, the Japs began to shell Santo Tomas. The unprovoked shell fire had killed 21 Americans. 40 more were wounded. 21 civilians murdered. 21 Americans had waited 3 long years for freedom. And now they would never leave Santo Tomas. One of them was my close friend, Mr. Carmen. President Osmeña had come to Manila to accept a liberated city. He found this instead. And he recalled that in 1942, to save the city and its people, General MacArthur had declared Manila an open city. Now, with the tables reversed, the Japanese were pulling the city down in fire and ruins. With tears in his eyes, the president pledged the undying support and resistance of his suffering people to Japan's final defeat. Even as the president spoke, our tanks and heavy guns were moving up to do the job they had to do. Refugees streamed out from the Japanese-held sections of the city. For them, Manila had become a chamber of horrors. Homeless and sick at heart, they were surviving witnesses to the sack of the greatest Christian city in the Orient. Jose Buencamino and his wife saw a squad of Japs enter the Red Cross building and bayonet and shoot everyone there. Doctors, patients, nurses, and refugees. 2 of their own children were among them. 50 burned alive in the Spanish consulate. 59 bayoneted in Tabacalera. The excuse? There was no excuse. As the refugees poured out from the Ermita in increasing numbers, it was evident that the Japs were going to make a suicide stand. Entrenched in foxholes, pillboxes, barricades, and gutted buildings, the Jap made us come in and get him. He burned the inside